Captain Lyra Moonwhisper felt her hand shake as she reached for the communication panel. Around her, the bridge of the crystal ship Harmony's voice trembled under the impact of another plasma blast. Through the transparent walls, she could see her homeworld burning. Serenita's prime had been beautiful once. Cities of living crystal grew like flowers across green continents. Gardens floated in the sky held up by anti-grav fields. The Zephrians had built their world to be perfect, with no war, no hunger, no suffering. They were artists, scientists, philosophers. They had never needed to learn how to fight. Now their perfect world was dying. The Vorthan Empire had come 6 months ago. Their bioships looked like giant diseased whales covered in armor and weapons. They fired streams of acid that ate through everything. They had already destroyed 12 Zephrian colonies. Billions of her people were dead or enslaved. "Captain," called Navigation Officer Stellar Windcatcher from his station. 3 more of our ships have been destroyed. The Bright Hope, the Dancing Star, and the Peaceful Morning. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment. Each ship held 3,000 souls. Good people who had never hurt anyone. The Vorthans killed them like they were nothing. "How many ships do we have left?" she asked. 15, Captain. We're almost out. Of power crystals? Our weapons can't get through their armor. Lyra looked at the tactical display. The Vorthan fleet surrounded her planet like hungry sharks. Admiral Zek's Bloodclaw commanded them from his flagship, a monster called Fleshrender. The reptilian aliens wanted to strip mine Serenita's prime for its rare crystals. It would kill every Zephrian to get them. The Zephrians had tried everything. They offered to share their technology, their art, their music. They begged for mercy, tried to run. Nothing worked. The Vorthons only understood strength, and the Zephrians had none. "Captain," said Communications Officer Luna Starweaver, "we're receiving another surrender demand from the Vorthons." "Ignore it," Lyra said. She had made her choice. If they were going to die, she would try something desperate first. For the past month, Zephrian scientists had been studying signals from across the galaxy. They found dozens of civilizations, most as peaceful as themselves. But one set of signals was different. The broadcasts showed violence, conflict, war. The beings called themselves humans, and they came from a world called Earth. The human signals scared most Zephrians. They showed creatures that fought constantly, that seemed to enjoy conflict. Their entertainment was full of battles and explosions. Their news talked about wars that had lasted for years. These humans seemed as dangerous as the Vorthans. But Lyra was desperate. Maybe it took monsters to fight monsters. "Luna, prepare a transmission. Send it on all frequencies the humans use." "Captain, are you sure? The Council said we should never contact such a violent species." "The Council is dead," Lyra said quietly. "Their crystal city was destroyed yesterday. We're alone now." Luna's wings drooped with sadness, but she prepared the transmission equipment. "Ready, Captain?" Lyra took a deep breath. She had studied the human language called English. It was harsh and ugly compared to Zephrian song speech, but she could speak it. "Begin recording," she said. The transmission device glowed with soft, blue light. Lyra looked into the visual pickup and began to speak. "To any civilization receiving this transmission, we are the Zephrian Collective. My name is Captain Lyra Moonwhisper. Our peaceful species faces extinction." She paused as another explosion shook the ship. Through the walls, she could see one of her escort vessels breaking apart, its crystal hull shattered like glass. "We have been at peace for over 10,000 years. We know nothing of war or violence. But now, the Vorthan Empire attacks us. They have destroyed our colonies and killed billions of our people. They want to strip our worlds bare and leave us to die." Her voice began to shake with emotion. "We have tried diplomacy. We have tried reasoning with them. We have offered them everything we have. They refuse all contact except to demand our surrender." Another blast hit the ship. The lights flickered. In the background, she could hear her crew reporting damage. "We offer our accumulated knowledge to any civilization that might help us. Our scientists have unlocked the secrets of faster-than-light travel. Our artists have created beauty beyond description. Our philosophers have found answers to questions that have puzzled thinking beings for centuries. All of this we will share freely with anyone who aids us. Lyra stood up from her command chair. Behind her, the viewing wall showed Serenita's prime covered in smoke and fire. We know some of you may be frightened by our request. You know some species prefer not to interfere in the affairs of others. But if you have ever known peace, if you have ever created something beautiful, if you have ever loved someone more than yourself, please help us. We're running out of time. The ship shuddered again. Warning lights flashed red across the bridge. The Vorthan fleet consists of bioships, living vessels that can heal damage and change their shape. They are commanded by Admiral Zex Bloodclaw, a being who takes pleasure in causing suffering. His flagship is called the Flesh Render. She transmitted the tactical data her sensors had gathered: ship designs, weapon types, battle formations, everything that might help someone fight the Vorthons. We are transmitting our location and all intelligence we have gathered about our enemies. If no one comes, we understand. We know we are asking strangers to risk their lives for people they have never met. Lyra felt tears flowing down her face. Her people cried, liquid crystal that glowed with inner light. But if someone is listening, if someone cares about justice and protecting the innocent, we beg you to help us. We are dying, and soon our voices will be silenced forever. Our children will never see another sunrise. Our artists will never create another masterpiece. Our scientists will never unlock another mystery of the universe. The transmission was almost over. She had said everything she could think of. This is Captain Lyra Moonwhisper of the Zephrian Defense Fleet, broadcasting from orbit around Serenitas Prime. We are the Zephrian Collective, and we are crying for help. Please, if anyone is listening, please help us. We don't want to die. She signaled Luna to end the recording. The communications officer sent the message out on every frequency. They knew, broadcasting it toward every inhabited system in the galaxy. How long until it reaches the nearest civilizations? Lyra asked. The Altarians will receive it in 6 hours. The Ethereals in 12. The humans... ... Luna checked her calculations. 37 hours, Captain. Lyra nodded. The humans were far away, and their technology seemed primitive compared to most galactic civilizations. Even if they wanted to help, they probably couldn't reach the Serenita system in time. Captain, called Tactical Officer Ray Moondancer, the Vorthons are moving. They're positioning for another attack run. Through the bridge walls, Lyra could see the bioships moving like a school of deadly fish. Their living holes pulsed with veins of toxic light. Weapon ports opened like hungry mouths. All ships, evasive maneuvers, she ordered. Try to buy us more time. Her small fleet scattered like frightened birds. The Zephrian ships were fast and graceful, but they were no match for Vorthon firepower. As she watched, the art ships singing. Crystal took a direct hit and dissolved into glowing dust. Lyra held onto her command chair as her ship accelerated hard to avoid another plasma stream. She had done everything she could. The message was sent. Now all she could do was try to keep her people alive as long as possible and hope that somewhere in the galaxy, someone was listening. Someone who could fight back. Someone who understood war better than peace. Someone who wouldn't be afraid to face the monsters that killed for pleasure. But as the Vorthan, bioships closed in around her small fleet. Lyra wondered if such people even existed. And if they did, would they care enough about strangers to risk their lives? The battle for Serenitas Prime continued, and the Zephrians fought with courage. They never knew they had. But courage alone wouldn't be enough to stop the Vorthans. They needed a miracle. They needed warriors. They needed someone from a world that taught its children how to fight. Dr. Helen Brooks almost dropped her coffee when the translation program finished processing the alien message. She had been working at the Deep Space Communication Array in New Mexico for 15 years, listening for signals from other worlds. Most nights, she heard nothing but cosmic background noise and the occasional pulsar. Tonight was different. The message played again on her computer screen. A beautiful alien woman with butterfly wings spoke in perfect English, begging for help, against something called the Vorthan Empire. The tactical data that came with the message showed ships that looked like living creatures, covered in weapons and armor. Helen's hands shook as she reached for the red phone on her desk. This was the direct line to Pacific Fleet Command, installed. Years ago, for exactly this moment, she'd never expected to use it. Admiral Sullivan's office answered a crisp voice. "This is Dr. Helen Brooks at Deep Space Array Station 7. I need to speak to the Admiral immediately. We have first contact." 20 minutes later, Admiral Jack Sullivan sat in his office at Pearl Harbor, watching the alien message for the third time. The weathered naval officer had served in 3 wars and commanded fleets across 2 oceans. He had seen humanity at its best and worst, but he had never seen anything like this. "Sir," said his aide, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Turner, "the Joint Chiefs are on secure video link. They want your assessment." Sullivan looked at the tactical data again. The Zephrian ships were beautiful, but fragile. Vorthan bioships looked like nightmares made real. If these aliens were telling the truth, an entire peaceful civilization was about to be wiped out. "Tell the Joint Chiefs we need an emergency session, and get me Dr. Patricia Kane from MIT. If we're going to build a starship, we'll need her physics team." The next morning, the President of the United States sat in the Situation Room with his top advisors. The alien message played on the main screen, while military leaders, scientists, and diplomats argued about humanity's response. "We can't just ignore this," said Secretary of Defense Robert Hayes. "These Zephrians are offering advanced technology in exchange for help, faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, things that could change everything. And what if it's a trap?" countered CIA Director Mary Johnson. "We send our best people and ships into space and they never come back. We could be walking into an ambush." Dr. Kane, the lead physicist from MIT, pulled up holographic displays of the Zephrian technical data. "Mr. President, I've been studying their information for 12 hours. This is real. Their science is centuries ahead of ours in some areas. With their help, we could build ships that travel between stars in days instead of years." The President looked tired. The weight of making humanity's first decision as a galactic species rested on his shoulders. "Admiral Sullivan, what's your military assessment?" Sullivan stood up, his uniform crisp despite working through the night. "Sir, based on the tactical data, the Zephrians are outgunned and outnumbered. They're artists and scientists trying to fight professional killers. Without help, they'll be extinct within weeks. We'll be starting humanity's first interstellar war. But sometimes, Mr. President, that's the right thing to do." The room fell silent. Through the reinforced windows, they could see Marine guards standing at attention. These men and women had sworn to protect America and its allies. How they might be asked to protect strangers from another world? "How long would it take us to build a ship capable of reaching their system?" the President asked. Dr. Kane consulted her notes. "With their technical data and our existing technology, maybe 3 months. We'd have to modify our largest aircraft carrier and install their faster-than-light drive system." "Do it," the President said quietly, "and may God help us all." 3 months later, the USS Liberty hung in Earth's orbit like a steel cathedral. The massive ship had started life as the aircraft carrier USS Gerald Ford, but Zephrian technology had transformed it into humanity's first starship. The flight deck now housed fighters designed for space combat. The hull bristled with new weapons that could fire in the vacuum between stars. Commander Jake Morrison walked through the ship's corridors, inspecting his crew of 5,000. He had been chosen to lead this mission because of his experience in impossible situations. He had served in Afghanistan, Syria, and Somalia. He had commanded ships through hurricanes and battles, but nothing had prepared him for this. Commander called his executive officer, Captain Nina Rodriguez. "The Zephrian refugees want to speak with you." Morrison nodded and walked to the VIP quarters. 3 Zephrian survivors sat in specially designed chairs that accommodated their delicate wings. They had escaped their homeworld in a small scout ship just days before the Liberty left Earth. The lead Zephrian was named Elder Cosmos Brightstar. His wings showed the silver patterns of age, and his eyes held deep sadness. "Commander Morrison," he said in accented English. "Oh, I want to thank you again for taking us with you. Most of our people have never seen violence like what the Vorthons. Bring your presence will mean everything to the survivors." "Tell me about these bioships," Morrison said, settling into a chair across from them. "How do they fight?" "They are alive," said another Zephrian, a younger female named Echo Starsong. "They can heal damage, adapt to new weapons, even change shape during battle. Admiral Bloodclaw has been using them to conquer systems for decades. And they've never been defeated?" Elder Brightstar's wings drooped. "Never. They are too adaptable, too vicious. They enjoy causing pain. Your species. You understand war in ways we cannot. Perhaps you can find their weakness." Morrison nodded. Grimly in the ship's training areas, 5,000 human warriors prepared for a battle unlike any in their history. Marines practiced fighting in zero-gravity and alien atmospheres. Pilots learned to fly in 3 dimensions without up or down. Navy SEALs studied how to board and capture living ships in the medical bay. Dr. Amy Carter worked with Zephrian healers to understand alien biology. The butterfly-winged beings were beautiful but fragile. Their bones were hollow like birds, their skin thin as paper. They had evolved on a gentle world where the biggest predator was the size of a house cat. "They're not built for conflict," she reported to Morrison. "Their entire psychology is based on harmony and cooperation. They literally cannot understand why someone would hurt another being for pleasure. That might be why they're losing." Morrison replied. Down in the cargo holds, Staff Sergeant Kyle Davis drilled his Marines in close combat. These men and women had volunteered for humanity's first interstellar mission. They knew they might never see Earth again. "Listen up, people." Davis barked at his troops. "These Vorthan things are big, nasty, and they've been winning fights for a long time. They think they're the toughest predators in the galaxy. Time to show them what a real predator looks like." The Marines cheered. They came from the cities and farms of America, from families that had fought in every war since the Revolution. They carried weapons that could punch through starship armor and training that had been paid for in blood across a dozen battlefields. Lieutenant Bobby Chen worked with the ship's pilots, teaching them how to fly the Liberty in combat. The massive vessel could move like a fighter when needed, thanks to engines that bent space itself. Remember, he told them, "We're not just representing the Navy up there. We're representing all of humanity. Let's make sure the galaxy remembers us." In his private quarters, Morrison studied intelligence reports about the Vorthan Empire. They had conquered 47 star systems, enslaving or destroying the inhabitants. They seemed unstoppable, but they had never fought humans before. Morrison opened a secure channel to Earth. Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the screen. Transmitted across impossible distances by Zephrian communication technology. "Status report, Commander." "We're ready, sir. The crew is trained, the ship is running perfectly, and our Zephrian allies have given us everything they know about Vorthan tactics. Any concerns?" Morrison looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, peaceful beings were dying. While their killers celebrated, Earth seemed very small and far away. "Just one, sir. We're starting humanity's first galactic war with a single ship. If we lose, Earth won't get a second chance." Sullivan's expression was grim, but determined. "Then, don't lose, Commander. Show them what humans can do when we're fighting for something bigger than ourselves." The transmission ended. Morrison walked to the bridge, where his crew waited at their stations. Through the main view screen, he could see the stars that would guide them to their destination. "All hands, this is the commander," he announced over the ship's communication system. "We jump to hyperspace in 1 hour. Check your equipment, say your prayers, and remember why we're here. Somewhere in the galaxy, innocent people are dying. We're going to stop it." The Liberty's engines hummed with barely contained power. In the fighter bays, pilots ran final checks on their spacecraft. In the armory, Marines loaded weapons they hoped would work against alien enemies. In engineering, technicians monitored systems that combined human engineering with alien science. They were ready. Earth's children were going to war among the stars. And the galaxy was about to learn what happened when someone threatened the innocent while humanity was watching. The hunt was about to begin. The USS Liberty dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Serenita system like a steel hammer falling from heaven. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display with growing anger. The beautiful crystal ships of the Zephrians were being torn apart by massive biovessels that looked like diseased whales crossed with battleships. Jesus Christ, whispered Navigator Pete Williams. We're getting massacred out there. 12 Zephrian ships danced around 5 Vorthon biovessels, their crystal hulls reflecting the light of the system's star. The alien ships moved like butterflies, graceful and beautiful, but they were dying one by one. Streams of green plasma ate through their hulls like acid, leaving glowing wounds that spread and consumed entire sections. Range to target? Morrison asked. 80,000 kilometers in closing, replied Tactical Officer Susan Blake. The Vorthons haven't noticed us yet. They're too busy enjoying the slaughter. Morrison watched a Zephrian ship called Dancing Light take a direct hit. The vessel broke apart in slow motion, its crystal fragments spinning away into space like deadly snow. 3,000 souls died in that single moment. Open a channel to the Zephrian fleet, he ordered. The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of a crystal ship. Captain Lyra Moonwhisper appeared, her butterfly wings torn and bloodied, her face streaked with glowing tears. "This is Commander Morrison of the Earth vessel Liberty," he said calmly. "We received your message. We're here to help." Lyra's eyes went wide with desperate hope. "Blessed winds carry you to us, humans. But I fear one ship cannot face 5 Vorthon. Biovessels. They are too strong, too many. Ma'am, with respect, you haven't seen what humans can do when we're angry." Morrison turned to his weapons officer. "Target the largest bioship. It's the one with all the spikes and extra armor. That'll be their flagship." Admiral Zex Bloodclaw commanded the Vorthon fleet from the bridge of his bioship Fleshrender. The reptilian alien stood 3 meters tall, his scales black as space itself, his eyes burning with cruel intelligence. Had conquered 47 star systems, destroying entire civilizations for sport. Admiral hissed his communications officer. "Sensors detect a new vessel entering the system. Single ship, unknown configuration." Bloodclaw looked at the tactical display with amusement. The newcomer was smaller than his flagship, but larger than the pathetic Zephrian crystal ships. Its hull was metal instead of living tissue, primitive and ugly. "One ship?" he laughed, the sound like breaking glass. "These fools think they can challenge the Vorthon Empire with a single vessel? Signal the fleet. Continue destroying the crystal ships. I will handle this newcomer personally." On the Liberty, Morrison watched the enemy flagship turn toward them. The bioship was enormous, easily twice the size of his vessel. Its living hull pulsed with veins of toxic light, and weapon ports opened like hungry mouths along its flanks. "Sir," reported Chief Engineer Tom Parker from the engine room, "all systems show green. The Zephrian upgrades are working perfectly. We can give you everything she's got. Weapon status." "Railguns loaded and ready," called Weapons Officer Blake. "Nuclear torpedoes armed. The new plasma lance is charging to full power." Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew was calm, professional, ready. Gosh, they had trained for this moment, but training was different from reality. They were about to fight aliens with technology centuries more advanced than their own. "Hands, this is the commander," he announced over the ship's intercom. "We are engaging the enemy. Remember your training, trust your shipmates, and show these bastards what happens when they pick on innocent people. Let's go to work." The Fleshrender fired first. Streams of corrosive plasma leaped across space toward the Liberty, each blast carrying enough energy to vaporize a city block. The human ship rolled hard to starboard. Its pilot, drawing on reflexes honed by Earth's crushing gravity and dangerous atmosphere. Lieutenant Bobby Chen flew the massive warship like a fighter jet, throwing it through maneuvers that would have killed most aliens through sheer acceleration. The Liberty twisted and dove, using its superior speed to avoid the bioship's weapons. "Jesus, Bobby, you're pulling 6 Gs, Morrison grunted, fighting against the force that tried to crush him. Into his command chair. "Sorry, sir, but that's the only way to avoid getting cooked," Chen replied through gritted teeth. His hands moved over the controls like a pianist playing a deadly song. The Liberty's railguns spoke first. 6 electromagnetic launchers accelerated tungsten rods to 15% of light speed. The kinetic projectiles hit the Fleshrender's bioarmor with the force of nuclear weapons. Punching holes clean through the living hull, Admiral Bloodclaw roared in pain and fury as his ship screamed. The bio-vessel was part of him, connected to his nervous system. He felt every wound as if it were his own flesh being torn. "Impossible," he hissed. "No species uses such primitive weapons. Kinetic rounds are barbaric." But even as he spoke, the ship began to heal. The wounds closed as living tissue regrew, sealing the damage. Within minutes, the holes had disappeared completely. "Sir," reported Blake, "the enemy ship is regenerating."
Our railgun hits aren't doing permanent damage?
Morrison nodded grimly. He had expected this. The Zephrians had warned him about the bioship's ability to heal. That's why he had brought special ammunition, load nuclear torpedoes. Full spread. "Nuclear torpedoes loaded and ready, sir." Fire, 6 fusion warheads streaked across space toward the flesh render. Bloodclaw watched them approach with contempt. His ship had survived thousands of battles. A few primitive explosives wouldn't stop him. The nuclear weapons detonated against the bioship's hull in flowers of atomic fire. For a moment, space itself seemed to burn as temperatures reached 10 million degrees. When the light faded, massive wounds scarred the flesh render's flanks, but this time the wounds didn't heal. The edges of each crater glowed with radioactive poison that ate deeper into the ship's living tissue. The bio-vessel screamed across all frequencies as radiation killed its cells faster than they could regenerate. "What have you done?" Claw shrieked, his voice cracking with pain and disbelief. "Those weapons are forbidden by galactic law. Dick. Nuclear fire is banned in civilized warfare." Morrison opened a channel to the Vorthan flagship. "Admiral Bloodclaw, this is Commander Morrison. We're not civilized. We're from Earth, and on Earth, everything is trying to kill you. We learn to fight dirty because clean fighting gets you dead." The other Vorthon bioships turned toward the Liberty, abandoning their attack on the Zephrian crystal ships. 4 massive vessels converged on the human warship, their weapons charging with deadly energy. "Sir," reported Blake, "we're about to be outnumbered 4-1. Enemy ships are moving to surround us." Morrison smiled coldly. "Then we'd better even the odds. Prepare the plasma lance for firing. Full power." Deep in the Liberty's core, a miniaturized fusion reactor fed power to humanity's newest weapon. The plasma lance was based on Zephrian technology, but built with human engineering. It could fire a sustained beam of superheated matter hot enough to cut through a planet. "Plasma lance charged and ready," reported Chief Engineer Parker. "Be advised, sir, this will drain our power reserves by 60%. Do it." A beam of pure energy lanced out from the Liberty's bow. The plasma stream, hotter than the surface of a star, carved through the nearest bioship like a lightsaber through butter. The Vorthan vessel simply ceased to exist, its living hull vaporized in seconds. The remaining bioships recoiled in shock and terror. In 2 minutes of combat, the humans had destroyed one vessel and crippled their flagship. No species had ever fought them with such vicious efficiency. "All ships," Bloodclaw commanded, his voice shaking with rage and pain. "Focus. Fire on the human vessel. Kill them all." The 3 remaining bioships opened fire simultaneously. Streams of plasma, acid bolts, and bioelectric lightning converged on the Liberty's position. The combined firepower should have vaporized the human ship instantly instead. The Liberty vanished. "Where did they go?" demanded Bloodclaw. On the Liberty's bridge, Morrison watched the Vorthon weapons pass harmlessly through empty space. "Nice flying, Bobby. How long can we stay cloaked?" 30 seconds, sir. The Zephrian stealth field draws too much power." The cloaking device was another gift from their alien allies, but the Liberty's reactors could barely sustain it.
Morrison
Had to make every second count. "Bring us around behind the damaged flagship. Target their engine section." The Liberty reappeared directly behind the wounded flesh render. Before the bioship could react, human railguns pumped dozens of kinetic rounds into its propulsion organs. The massive vessel shuddered and began to drift, its ability to maneuver destroyed, Admiral reported. "Bloodclaw's tactical officer. Engines are offline. We're dead in space." Bloodclaw stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His flagship, the terror of 47 star systems, had been crippled by a single primitive vessel crewed by aliens who should have been extinct within minutes. "Signal the Empire," he ordered quietly. "Tell them we've encountered a death world. Species, send all available reinforcements." Morrison watched the remaining Vorthan ships begin to retreat toward the system's edge. They had learned respect for human weapons, but the battle wasn't over yet. The 3 remaining Vorthan bioships circled the USS Liberty like hungry sharks, their living hulls pulsing with rage and pain. Admiral Zex Bloodclaw commanded from his damaged flagship, the Fleshrender, which drifted helplessly with its engines destroyed. He had never retreated from a battle in his entire career, but these humans fought like demons. "All ships concentrate fire on the human vessel," Bloodclaw snarled into his communications system. "I want them dead. I want their ship torn apart, piece by piece." The bioships Warbringer, Deathsinger, and Bonecrusher moved into attack formation. Each vessel was twice the size of the Liberty, armed with weapons that had conquered dozens of star systems. Their combined firepower should have turned the human ship into molten metal. "Commander," Jake Morrison watched the enemy ships approach on his tactical display. His crew had fought brilliantly so far, but 3-2-1 odds were still terrible. He needed to even the playing field using the one advantage humans had always possessed. "Bobby," he called to his pilot, "how close can you get us to that star without cooking us?" Lieutenant Bobby Chen checked his instruments and grinned. "Sir, how crispy do you want to get?" "Close enough to use the gravity well for a slingshot. I want every bit of speed this ship can give us." "Yes, sir." Hang on to something. The Liberty suddenly dove toward Serenita's prime star, accelerating at velocities that pushed the crew deep into their seats. The 3 Vorthan bioships followed, firing streams of plasma and acid that lit up space behind the fleeing human vessel. But the Liberty wasn't fleeing, it was hunting. Chen piloted the massive warship like a racing car, using the star's gravity to whip around in a tight curve that would have torn apart most alien vessels. The G-forces were crushing, but humans had evolved on a heavy world with dangerous weather. They could survive accelerations that would liquefy other species. "Pulling 12 Gs, Chen reported through gritted teeth.
Out. Hope everyone remembered
to use the bathroom before we started. Pursuing bioships tried to match the Liberty's maneuver, but their living hulls weren't designed for such violent acceleration. Bonecrusher's organic structure began to tear under the stress. Fluids leaked from ruptured organs along its flanks. Morrison felt his vision graying at the edges from the crushing force, but he forced himself to stay conscious. "Weapons, lock onto the damaged bioship. Fire everything we have." The Liberty's railguns and plasma lance fired simultaneously. Tungsten rods and superheated energy struck the wounded Bonecrusher at the moment when its crew was helpless from acceleration stress. The bioship exploded in a shower of organic debris and bioluminescent fluids. "One down, 2 to go," Morrison gasped. Warbringer and Deathsinger pulled out of their pursuit, unable to match the human ship's suicidal maneuvers. But they positioned themselves between the Liberty and the Zephrian crystal ships. Ready to resume the slaughter of the butterfly-winged aliens? Morrison made a decision that would have horrified any civilized species in the galaxy. He was going to board an enemy vessel during active combat. "Marines, prepare for assault. We're going hunting." Staff Sergeant Kyle Davis had been waiting for this moment. His 200 Marines were loaded into modified torpedo tubes, wearing powered armor that could function in the vacuum of space. They carried weapons designed to fight inside living ships against enemies they had never seen. "Listen up, people," Davis told his troops over the comm system. "These bioships are alive, which means they'll try to heal damage and trap us inside. We go in hard, we go in fast, and we don't give them time to adapt. Remember, we're not just Marines anymore. We're humanity's introduction to the galaxy." Liberty launched 20 torpedoes at Deathsinger. But instead of explosives, 18 of the torpedoes carried boarding pods filled with human Marines. The bioship's defensive systems tried to shoot down the incoming projectiles, but they couldn't distinguish between real warheads and Trojan horses. The boarding pods punched through Deathsinger's living hull like bullets through flesh. Marines, empowered armor, spilled into the bioship's twisted corridors, their helmet lights cutting through the organic darkness. Davis led Alpha Squad through passages that pulsed like arteries. The walls were warm and wet, covered in veins that carried luminous fluids. The smell inside the bioship was indescribable, like a mixture of rotting meat and alien flowers. Contact front called Corporal Randy Johnson, 4th and Soldiers 10. Meters ahead, the enemy troops wore environmental suits that made them look even more reptilian than usual. They fired energy weapons that could melt through most armor, but human military technology had advanced rapidly in the past century. The firefight was brief and one-sided. The Vorthons had never faced enemies who could survive in vacuum, fight in toxic atmospheres, and shrugged off injuries that would kill most galactic species. Human Marines advanced through energy blasts that would have vaporized unarmored troops, their powered suits absorbing damage that seemed impossible. They're not stopping, hissed Vorthon squad leader Korak Sharptooth into his communicator. We hit them directly, and they keep coming. What are these creatures made of? Davis answered, by putting 3 armor-piercing rounds through Sharptooth's chest plate. Oh. The Vorthon commander fell, his green blood mixing with the ship's organic fluids. Meanwhile, Warbringer tried to help its sister ship by ramming the Liberty. The biovessel accelerated to full speed, intending to crush the human ship between its massive bulk and Deathsinger's hull. Morrison saw the attack coming and made another impossible decision. All power to forward shields. Bobby, take us straight. At them? Sir, that's suicide. Trust me. The 2 ships raced toward each other like ancient knights charging with lances. At the last second, Chen rolled the Liberty 90 degrees and fired the plasma lance straight up through Warbringer's belly. The superheated beam carved through the bioship's core organs, killing it instantly. Warbringer's momentum carried. It passed the Liberty and into a slow tumble toward the star. Inside, Deathsinger Davis and his Marines had fought their way to the ship's brain core. A pulsing organ the size of a house surrounded by neural pathways that glowed with electric thought. Vorthon crew members in environmental suits made a desperate last stand around their ship's central nervous system. Flamethrowers, Davis ordered. Time to perform surgery. The Marines unleashed gouts of superheated plasma that burned through bioarmor like paper. The Vorthons screamed as their positions were overrun by humans who fought with a savagery that shocked even these professional killers. Commander Vex Bloodfang, captain of Deathsinger, watched his crew die with growing horror. These humans didn't just fight to win. They seemed to enjoy the violence, to thrive in conditions that would break other species. What kind of world created such monsters? He whispered. Davis heard the alien's words through his helmet translator. The kind of world that teaches its children how to survive, scumbag. The Marine sergeant placed explosive charges around the bioship's brain core while his men held off the remaining Vorthon defenders. When the charges detonated, Deathsinger died screaming across all radio frequencies. Admiral Bloodclaw watched 2 more of his ships die and felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Real. Cold, paralyzing terror at an enemy he couldn't understand or defeat. Signal all Vorthon forces, he commanded with a shaking voice. Full retreat to the Empire's borders. Send word to the High Command. Tell them we've encountered a Deathworld species. Well, tell them the humans must be destroyed before they can spread their madness to other systems. The Flesh Render and the surviving escort ships began their jump to hyperspace, leaving behind the wreckage of 3 biovessels and the corpses of thousands of Vorthon warriors. On the Liberty, Morrison stood on his bridge and watched the enemy fleet disappear into the void. Around his ship, 12 Zephrian crystal vessels moved in formation, their crews singing songs of victory and gratitude. Captain Lyra Moonwhisper appeared on his main screen, her butterfly wings trembling with emotion. Commander Morrison, you have saved my people. But the way you fight ... it terrifies even us. How do you live with such violence? Morrison looked at the tactical display showing the debris field where enemy ships had died. His Marines were returning. From their boarding action, their armor scorched and bloodied, but their spirits high. They had won humanity's first interstellar battle, Mammy said quietly. We come from a world that's been trying to kill us for 3 million years. Every disease, every predator, every natural disaster made us harder. We learned that sometimes the only way to protect the innocent is to be more dangerous than the monsters. Dr. Amy Carter's voice came over the intercom from the medical bay. Commander, I've been analyzing the Vorthan prisoners we captured. They're actually not that different from us biologically. They just never had to fight for survival like we did. Their homeworld was a paradise. Like most of the galaxy, it seems, Morrison replied, as the Liberty began its journey back to Earth. Carrying Zephrian refugees and Vorthan prisoners, Morrison wondered what they had started. News of humanity's intervention would spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Some species would welcome Earth as an ally. Others would see humans as a threat to be eliminated. 3 weeks after the Battle of Serenitas' Prime, Captain Lyra Moonwhisper stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching her homeworld heal. The crystal cities were rebuilding themselves, growing back from the damage like living organisms. Her people sang again in the floating gardens, but their songs had changed. They now included verses about human warriors who came from the darkness between stars. Your world is beautiful, said Commander Jake Morrison, joining her at the observation window. I can see why the Vorthans wanted it. Lyra's wings fluttered nervously. The past few weeks had shown her things about warfare that no Zephrian should ever have to learn. She had watched human marines board living ships and fight enemies in ways that seemed impossible. The humans treated violence like other species treated art or science, with skill and terrible efficiency. Commander, she said quietly, my people are grateful beyond words, but we're also frightened. The way your species fights, ... It's unlike anything in the galaxy. You seem to enjoy the conflict, Morrison shook his head. We don't enjoy it, Captain. We're just good at it. Earth taught us that sometimes you have to be the monster to stop the real monsters. A communication alert sounded across the bridge. Communications Officer Lucy Hayes looked up from her station. With excitement, Sir, we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. Dozens of species want to talk to us. Morrison returned to his command chair. The past 3 weeks had been busy. News of humanity's victory over the Vorthan fleet had spread through galactic communication networks faster than light itself. Every major civilization was demanding information about these new Deathworlders who had casually used nuclear weapons and laughed at impossible odds. Put the first one through, Morrison ordered. The main screen flickered, showing a reptilian being with golden scales and intelligent eyes. The creature's nameplate identified him as Ambassador Thex Golden Scale of the Draconi Republic. Commander Morrison, the alien said in perfect English, I am Vex Golden Scale. My people are warriors, conquerors of 17 star systems. We respect strength above all else. We wish to meet with your leaders to discuss mutual interests. Morrison studied the alien's expression. The Draconi were clearly predators, but they showed a respectful wariness that the Vorthons had lacked. These beings understood that humanity was dangerous. Ambassador, we'll be happy to arrange a meeting through proper diplomatic channels. But I should warn you, we're not interested in conquest. We came here to help innocent people. The Draconi's eyes widened slightly. You defeated 5 Vorthan bioships with a single vessel, and you claim no territory? No slaves? No tribute? We fight to protect, not to profit. The transmission ended with the alien looking confused and thoughtful. Morrison wondered how many galactic civilizations would struggle to understand that concept. The next message came from the ethereal commune, a collection of energy beings who appeared as shifting patterns of light. Their representative calling itself harmony of thought spoke in musical tones that the translator converted to English. Humans of Earth, we have observed your intervention at Serenitas Prime. Your methods concern us greatly. The use of nuclear fire and kinetic weapons represents a level of brutality unknown in civilized space. We must debate whether your species should be welcomed or contained. Morrison felt his temper rising. Contained. We just saved an entire civilization from genocide, and you want to debate whether we're too violent? You ended the lives of thousands of orphans in a matter of minutes? Such efficiency in killing disturbs us. Those Vorthans were in the middle of committing genocide themselves. Sometimes, stopping evil requires doing terrible things, energy being pulsed with conflicting colors. This philosophy is alien. To us, we will consider your words. Dr. Amy Carter joined Morrison on the bridge, carrying a datapad filled with psychological profiles. Commander, I've been analyzing the responses we're getting from across the galaxy. Most species evolved on worlds much gentler than Earth. They've never needed to develop our survival instincts or our capacity for violence. What's the breakdown? Morrison asked. About 30% are frightened of us and want us quarantined. 40% are curious but cautious. 20% see us as potential allies. And 10% want to hire us as mercenaries. Morrison shook his head. Humanity had revealed itself to the galaxy as saviors, and some aliens immediately wanted to turn them into hired killers. The next few days brought a steady stream of alien communications. The Vorthon Empire had retreated to their core systems, but intelligence reports suggested they were massing a much larger fleet. Other predator species across the galaxy were also reconsidering their expansion plans now that a Deathworld species had entered galactic politics. On Serenita's prime, Elder Cosmos Brightstar met with human diplomats in a crystal palace that grew from the planet's surface like a living mountain. The ancient Zephrian's wings showed patterns of deep wisdom, but his eyes held new knowledge that saddened him. Carol Green, he said to the human diplomat, "My people have learned much from watching your warriors. We always believed that intelligence and beauty were the highest virtues in the universe. Now we understand that sometimes survival requires darker qualities." Ambassador Green, a former Marine turned diplomat, nodded sympathetically. Elder Brightstar, humans have struggled with this balance for millennia. We've learned that strength without wisdom leads to tyranny, but wisdom without strength leads to extinction. And how do you maintain that balance? By remembering why we fight. We don't fight for glory or conquest. We fight to protect those who can't protect themselves. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from Admiral Jack Sullivan. On Earth, the elderly officer appeared on a holographic display, his expression grim. Ambassador Green, Commander Morrison, we have a situation. Long-range sensors have detected massive fleet movements in the Outer Rim. Something big is heading toward the core systems. It's got the Vorthans running scared. Morrison studied the tactical data that accompanied the transmission. The sensor readings showed ships larger than anything in the known galaxy, moving in formations that suggested a military force beyond current understanding. Any idea what we're looking at, Admiral? Negative? But if it's got the Vorthans retreating to their fortress worlds, it's probably not coming to shake hands and trade recipes. 3 months later, New Geneva Station hung in space at the galaxy's diplomatic heart, a massive construct where representatives from hundreds of species gathered to discuss politics and trade. The station had been built as a symbol of galactic peace and cooperation. Today, it hosted humanity's first official introduction to galactic civilization. Ambassador Green walked through corridors filled with beings from across the galaxy, crystalline. Altarians chimed musical greetings. Gaseous Nebulan delegates floated in specialized containment fields. Insectoid hive queens communicated through pheromone clouds that smelled like cinnamon and ozone. All of them stared at the human delegation. Ambassador Green, said Chancellor Zorminspeak of the Galactic Council, being that looked like a cross between a mushroom and a tree, welcome to New Geneva Station. The galaxy is eager to learn more about your species. The main assembly hall could hold 10,000 beings. Today, every seat was filled. Representatives from civilizations that had never agreed on anything sat together, united in their curiosity and concern about these new Deathworlders. Green stood at the speaker's podium, looking out at faces and forms beyond human imagination. Some showed fear, others curiosity, a few displayed barely concealed hostility. "Honored delegates," she began, "my species has dreamed of this moment for centuries. We've searched the stars for signs of intelligence, hoped for contact with other civilizations, So imagined what we might learn from beings who had mastered sciences we barely understand. The assembly listened in perfect silence. We never imagined that our first contact would come as a cry for help. When Captain Moonwhisper's message reached Earth, we faced a choice. We could ignore it, protect ourselves, and let others fight their own battles. Or we could risk everything to help strangers we had never met. Green paused, letting her words sink in. We chose to help because that's who humans are. We're not perfect. We're violent, stubborn, and sometimes we make terrible mistakes. Yeah, but when innocent people are in danger, we can't stand by and do nothing. A delegate from the Peaceful Union, a collection of species that had eliminated all conflict from their societies, raised a crystalline appendage. Ambassador, your methods of war are considered barbaric by galactic standards. How can we trust a species that uses nuclear fire and kinetic weapons? Green had expected this question, because those barbaric methods saved the Zephrian collective from extinction. Sometimes stopping monsters requires becoming temporarily monstrous ourselves. An insectoid representative clicked and buzzed. The translator converted the sounds. 2 words. What do humans want from the galaxy? Territory. Resources. Tribute to learn. Green replied simply. You've built civilizations without war, mastered technologies we can barely comprehend, created art that moves us to tears. We want to be part of that. We want to contribute to it. We want to grow. The Draconian ambassador leaned forward, and in return,